discovered a universal language, but she hasn't spoken a word since 2003. My sister is a genius. Not the honor roll and piano recitals kind. I mean genius in a way that warps reality. She once built a sound system that made her voice echo around a room with such perfect distortion it could seem like she was moving. At 10 years old, that was just the beginning. In 2003, when she was 13, Nirali found a way to bypass the rules of physics. Matter, mass, and visibility no longer applied to her. She became invisible to the human eye. She claimed she had discovered something else too, a language the universe understands, one we could not reproduce or comprehend. I'm no slouch myself. Our family is full of talent. Physicists, engineers, artists. I work in high energy density physics, but compared to Nirali, I felt like a toddler finger painting in the margins of her equations. It started one night while I was researching. I heard her behind me. They're wrong, you know. I sighed. Nirali, we've talked about knocking. Oh, she said. I didn't think about the door. I turned around. My room was empty. I scanned the space again, confused. Then she giggled. All right, jerkhole, where are you? Right here! She laughed. Her voice came from in front of me, but I couldn't see her. She insisted it wasn't a speaker trick. I asked her to explain. She tried. What followed was a migraine-inducing mess of atomic frequencies, post-dimensional drift, superliminal desynchronization, and something she called the Planck supertemporal parallel. I grasped the concept at best, but not the math. She said, I walked where the walls weren't. When I asked how she got in, she shrugged. The walls aren't everywhere, Divya. Not in every reality. She was excited. Looking at myself is trippy, she said. I look like 100 versions of me stacked together. The weirdest part? She was speaking, but I couldn't tell what language it was. I heard English, but I knew she wasn't speaking English. Say something else, I asked. She quoted a Latin passage from Cicero, and I heard it in English. She recited a Hindi prayer, and I heard that in English too. She wasn't just invisible, she was speaking a universal language. I couldn't parse the sounds, but I always understood her. That summer, she visited my room like this almost every night. We'd test her language, try to isolate phonemes. It never worked. I could feel her words vibrating in my head, bypassing sound entirely. But one night she stopped mid-sentence. She went silent. I couldn't see her, but I felt her freeze. Nirali, I whispered. Shh. Her voice trembled. A chill crept through the room. Something was there, hiding behind the walls. I stared at the red glow of my clock, too afraid to move. I eventually fell asleep. She woke me hours later. It's gone now, she whispered. What's gone? The shadow behind the walls. She wouldn't explain. That morning, she knocked at my door like normal. She crawled into bed and didn't speak. We just held each other and cried. A week passed before she returned in her invisible form. I think it's drawn to the language, she whispered. There are things out there, things older than time. They listen. Her voice shook. Some of them can't see me yet, but they will. They skip like stones through dimensions. They want something. Then stop going, I pleaded. I can't, she whispered. It's the only place I can still speak. What do you mean? I can't speak English anymore. Not out there. I sat in stunned silence. I've tried all week. Nothing comes out but noise. But here, with you, I can still speak. They can't hear me here. She faded again. Minutes later, she knocked on the door like normal. I let her in. She curled up in bed beside me. The next morning, she tried to speak. Her lips moved, but what came out wasn't a human language. It was wet, scraping, guttural. It chilled me to the core, and still, I understood. Don't tell Mom and Dad.